fake it till you make it. Or what I could have learned from Hegel, Part 1. The misconception of the Golden Buddha. In Bangkok, there is a temple containing a golden Buddha statue, around which a legend has developed, and the legend goes like this. In the 18th century, Burmese invaders invaded Thailand. To protect their Buddha statue, which was made of pure gold, from being stolen, the monks of the time covered it with stones, mud, and clay, so that the invaders couldn't recognize its value and wouldn't steal it. This worked. But over the years, everyone else also forgot what was buried beneath all the layers of mud and clay, until about 70 years ago, a monk accidentally scraped away the clay and, to the amazement of the world, exposed the gold. The moral of the story, it is said, is there is a golden Buddha inside all of us, shining pure and magnificently, but it's clogged with fear and shame and all the social mechanisms and obligations. I've read this story on a life coach's website, Free Your Golden Buddha. And I assume it works, because everyone so desperately wants to be a golden Buddha, dreams of their pure and magnificent core of gold, where we finally arrived at ourselves, where we can finally live without fear, shame, and doubt. To become free, we are supposed to lose our fear and let go of our shame. But to quote Hegel, when speaking of freedom, one must always be careful to see whether it is not actually private interests that are being discussed. What if it is exactly the other way around? Aren't we constantly adorning ourselves with gold and precious stones, posting impressive pictures, wearing makeup, dressing fashionably, optimizing, biohacking ourselves, whitening our teeth, lengthening our hair, doing yoga, going to the gym, using plastic surgery, and so on, telling heroic stories, what we've already done and what our goals are. And what we are going to find when we have put away all the beautiful things, isn't it just a bit of stone, clay, and mud, hidden behind a golden surface? A mixture of fear, shame, and inadequacy that lies beneath a golden shell. So the fear is the gold. The shame is the gold. Therefore, to paraphrase Hegel, we don't have to lose our fear. We are not nearly fearful enough. We shouldn't abandon our inadequacy. We should be much, much more inadequate. Much, much more shameful. How come? Isn't everybody telling you everywhere that fear is the enemy, that shame is the enemy we have to get rid of? For example, perhaps one of you is what is called a people pleaser. These are people who are constantly busy fulfilling other people's wishes and expectations. This is called a coping mechanism, a behavioral pattern acquired in childhood that helped us survive the internal and external stresses of our childhood, and which now that we are adults has mostly lost its function. We no longer need them to survive. But they are still there, still working. People pleasers are often asked, but what do you want? And they don't know. They don't have an answer for that. At some point, they'll say something like, I don't know, to be happy, to be rich, to be famous, to be an artist or a doctor, whatever. Complete platitudes that reveal all the more that they really don't know what they want. Maybe there are no deep and golden wishes, no pure dreams that have been sent to us from the beyond. Maybe all we have is right here in front of us, our patterns, which are still moving us from A to B. To quote Hegel, behind the curtain of appearance there is nothing except what we have put there. So, the greatest illusion is the one that tells us that behind the illusion there is a deeper reality waiting. These patterns, these mechanisms, are forms that have been robbed of their original content and have become their own content. They are only moving in itself. You could say these function-deprived mechanisms now slither through our lives like undead skeletons, and we became the walking dead, driven only by an endless self-reflection of a pattern that we developed during our childhood, and nothing but itself has control over it. They constantly intervene in our lives. You might say they are sabotaging our ability to build meaningful relationships of any kind. Or you could say, they are us. It's me. I'm my behavioral pattern. And I'm not suffering because my inner golden Buddha, my sacred, unique self has been buried, but only because a behavior that was once vital to survival has lost its function. Yet I'm still compelled to use it and receive no recognition for it. But who wants to hear that, right? How should one deal with them, these undead, when there is nowhere to turn? When there is no holy secret, no buried self to discover, no rescue nor shelter, nothing but mud and clay, fear and shame. Hegel said, know your limits and sacrifice yourself. If you suffer enough from your behavioral pattern, you will break it, and in that case, you are your patterns. Sacrificing them means sacrificing yourself. And if you don't have to sacrifice them yet, to paraphrase Hegel again, you are not yet desperate enough. It is not yet necessary, so you cannot yet be free. To quote Hegel, freedom is insight into the necessity. Okay, let's take one more step. Imagine a situation. You are standing on the subway and see someone being harassed. Now imagine you were a 6'10", 230-pound Navy SEAL who knows how to fight. You will walk over, grab the guy and throw him out. Nothing about that would be brave. It's just what you do, something you are capable of doing. Now imagine you were me, 5'8", 160 pounds, and no clue about fighting. My heart would be beating at 180 a minute. I'd probably shit myself with fear. But maybe I would walk over there and tell the guy off. And maybe and hopefully I'm not getting killed. In retrospect, we would call my behavior brave. And we would rightly call it brave. But during it was almost insane, and all I felt was fear and terror. Being brave is actually a fake. Bravery is pretending to be brave in a situation where you have no other choice. Don't wait for some miraculous true self to reveal itself. Fake it. So if you are a people pleaser, for example, stop laughing at jokes. I'm serious. Don't laugh at jokes. If the joke is funny enough, it will force you to laugh. You don't have to do anything. If someone asks you if you could do something for them, say no. Or as Melville has his Bartleby so aptly put it, I'd rather not to. For some of you that might sound ridiculous, but for people pleasers, believe me, it will feel terrifying. And people will be confused by your new behavior. They will turn away because that is not what they usually get from you, but it is exactly the pattern you want to break. But the question is, where am I moving? Since there is no other content, no other self to which I could turn, I have to fake it until a new pattern, a new form has created its new content, a new undead movement. And here comes the point, from which I will hopefully suffer less. To quote Hegel, it is such a prerogative of higher natures to feel pain. The higher nature is, the more misery it feels. To put it bluntly, except there is nothing underneath. There are no hidden treasures, just the things that lie in front of us. If you can't find no desires of your own, pretend. Pretend until the imagined wishes become real ones. But if you want to cling to the story of the Golden Buddha, you are doomed to search for him forever. And that's what most people do, and I don't blame them. They get pretty good paid for their repetitive suffering, with a beautiful story that they can tell themselves over and over. And at least it shines. And you don't have to look into the dark.